Hello and welcome to another Red9 demo. Thanks for watching. It's been a while since we did the last one. By no means has ProPack been frozen. We've been active development. We've just been really busy with production work. And out of that have come quite a few new tools. So we're going to go through one of the first ones, and that is Trails. What you're seeing here on the screen at the moment, this is Trails. So the red and the blue, they're basically polys, and it's a trail system that goes behind objects and tracks objects, etc. Initially written for a very specific reason for a particular character of one of the projects that we've done, but expanded to a point where it's now a more generic tool. Really good for this kind of thing for ribbons, but very good for animators to see the arcs of things, simulating sword fights, etc. You know, the kind of sword effects you'd see in games, etc. So this is the sort of stuff that it's capable of doing. So let's dig into it. If I open the UI up, it's in Red9 ProPack. You'll notice the Red9 ProPack menu has grown substantially. We're going to cover all of these tools coming up, so stay with us. So Trails is the first one. And basically in this we have two poly trails, and they are just poly trails. There's one of them, and if we select them in here, we've got them both active here. We can mute them. We'll cover the UI in a minute, but just it's quite important to understand what's going on. What's happening is that we have effectively a wand, if you like. There's a set of controls. We track back from the position of that control by X number of frames. And if we select here, this little select button, you'll see this is on the main trail controller. We're saying we're going 25 frames back. So we're back sampling time, 25 frames every single frame. So it can get slow in certain circumstances. We'll cover that in a minute. But let's cover the actual setting up of this. Let's just go to a very simple scene. Let's go a new scene here. Okay, so let's make our first trail. All we need to do is just create the setup, give it a name, Red9, and there's our wand. If remember we were saying it's effectively a wand. Well, there's the wand. You've got a main controller which controls the two child controllers, and the two child controllers are effectively the top and the bottom of that ribbon. So they're the width of the ribbon that we're controlling. We've got the trail object itself, which is the thing that actually gets controlled, and the ref point, which you can just ignore. Okay, so let's actually get this thing to do something. Let's move it from across there. I'm just going to do it manually, and then we'll start attaching it to objects to see what's going on. And we'll take it across there. So automatically, you can see we've got the trail being generated behind, just by putting two keys on it and having it move across. Let's say we're just going to go up. And we'll just do just some simple animation on it, just so we've got something else going on. Okay, so it's going up and it's coming down. In fact, let's key it there and let's bring it back into shot so we don't have to keep tracking it on and off screen. Pull it back down there. There we go. Let's do that. So that's a bit more like it. Okay, so there's our base animation. Effectively, all we've done is just keyed that cube, and that's all we've done. The top and the bottom controllers, like I say, they're the width of the wand, so if we were to literally just move that across and replay it, obviously the thing is longer. What we can also do is we can add a simple ramp, which is this thing here, add simple ramp, as the name suggests, and all that does is put a ramp shader on the thing. And if we come into our hypershade, we can let's just give it a bit of color so we can see it a bit easier. Oops, we'll give it, oh, come on, that one, okay, that's a bit better. Right, now we can see it a bit easier. So there's the wand. Now then, we've got some key controls that we need to know about. I'm just going to delete these so we can play with them. The first one is trail length. Trail length is the amount of subframes back from the current frame that we let that polygon track. So at that point there, I've got 10 frames. So if I show you that, effectively we've got 10 frames from this position here back to here. So if I jog this this time slider back to frame 14, that's where we are, and 10 frames on, that's where the end of the trail sits. So that's effectively the trail length. So if we were to go 20, we'd sample 20 frames back, and the trail gets longer. We could sample as many as, we can do 30, 40, 50, whatever it is. It's just the more you do that, the longer the trail gets. Now the flip side of that is that the longer the trail gets, the more you're pulling those polys around. In this case it works okay because we're doing a quite simple animation. If you're doing a really complicated one like the gymnastics that we showed earlier on, you're probably going to need a bit more divisions in this. So what we can do is, again, we can select the main controller and we can go divisions. Well, let's do one per frame. And what you'll see now is that we've now got loads of divisions, so we've got loads of information in that poly, so it's a lot better and it's tracking it much smoother. The caveat to that is that the more times you do, the slower the thing will get. So if we had this connected to a rig and we did 30 frames back, what we're actually doing is we're solving that rig 30 frames backwards, so 30 times effectively. So things can get slow when we attach, and like I say, we'll show you that in a minute. Okay, what else? The Y deformer. So the simple one is effectively just we've got a cube and we're moving the cube. We've got two ones that are children of it, and that's all that we're doing to make this thing. But we can add a Y deformer. Now there's a couple of options in this. The first one is the CV count. That is the number of controllers that we're going to add to the Y when we generate it. Simple as that. The second one is the accuracy. Now, with accurate off, all we effectively do is sample this time range 10 times, and we effectively say that's where the points in this curve are. Again, on a simple animation like this, it's normally okay. If you're doing something a bit more complicated, then you're not necessarily hitting the points in the animation that you need to. So that's where the accurate comes in. Accurate samples every single frame, turns it into a curve, and then it rebuilds that curve based on the number of knots, so you get a much better result. So that really should be always on. We'll generate that. Those are our CVs, well, those are our controls, I should say, and you'll see that's then tracking what's going on. Now these are all animatable, so if I were to come halfway through this, let's say at this end, and we wanted a little bit of animation on that, what we can do is we can just move that controller along. And this is really good for at the end of the trail, if the thing's past it, and just having it float around and just moving some extra sine waves through it or whatever. You'll notice as we drag that trail, if we were to reset that, it will go back to where the trail animation actually is being generated from. So it's like a layer over the top of the actual animation that this is generating. So that's it in the most simple terms. If we go back to something where we connect it, let's go back to the gymnastics. And we'll refresh the UI. Okay, so this is the gymnastics one. Let's go to the piece that works quite well. I think it's Tumble 1. And that one, no, it's the one that comes the other direction. Give me a second. That one there. Okay, so you can see this is a really quite complicated piece of motion now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the blue trail because I want to show you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to detach this red trail. So this is currently attached to his right wrist, and I'm just going to hit the cross, and it'll say, do you want to detach this point? Yes. Why is that not attached? Let's select the thing. Oh, it's because it's keyed. Okay, so let's just delete all the keys as well. Delete. That's better. Right, okay. So now we've got no animation on the one. The one's just set there floating. So this is effectively how you'd normally start the process. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect it to that wrist. Okay. And we're going to go and hit that button. It says unattached. If I click that, it will say now it's attached to the right wrist. What you'll notice is that the wand will automatically bolt to the wrist. But what you'll also notice is how much slower the scene gets. And there's a reason for that. The reason is that this is trail length 25. So this is a complicated rig. It's got some complicated animation on it, and we're effectively per frame sampling that animation 25 times. And depending on where you're connecting it to within a rig, it can get faster or slower. If you connect it to the cog, for example, it's really quick, because in order to solve the cog, you don't really need to do anything because it's the root of the rig. But in order to solve the wrist 25 times every frame, you're actually solving the cog, the spine, the clavicles, all the wrist system and the hand system to get to where that wrist actually is 25 times every frame. So it can get slow, as in this case. Okay, you'll see it start to chug a bit. Now then, the reason we've done this is that we've also got this thing, cache controls, and I'm just going to cache it, and you'll notice automatically we're back to real time. So we know it gets slow if you run it live. It's a useful tool to have, but there is this cached option, and that's why it's there, just to make sure that the thing's fast enough. The two drivers as well, so you can attach, so effectively I've got the two drivers unattached. So we've got the main root attached, which is effectively that parent cube that you saw previously. The other two aren't attached. You can attach these as well. Again, the more you attach, the slower things get, and then you cache it. So you can attach them to random things, etc., and make it explode, however you want to do But that's effectively what these attachments point. And again, if I were to just take that off, it'll say about it, and it'll say, do you want to kill it? And yes, I do. And the only reason, again, that that's tracking it is because we've still got keys in that object. So that's what this is doing. Attach it and unattach it. In fact, if I attach it to the spine, just to give you an example here, so this is now live attached to the spine, you'll see this is running pretty much at real time. And again, that's purely because to solve the spine is quite quick because it's the root of the rig. To solve the wrist, you've got to solve all of the spine and the wrist to get to it. So that's why it gets slower depending on where you attach to. But that's why the caching is there. Okay, hopefully that explains it all. You can quite easily just click on this and make more trails. So I mean, if for example, let's just really quickly, just quickly, just to make sure that this works. So we've selected a blue group. I'm just going to attach that to its foot. I don't know, let's go wild. Attach to his foot. There we go. Now he's got a little one hanging off the foot. It's that simple to make. And like I said, to control them, it's literally trail length and the divisions, and that's all it controls. Okay. Hopefully that was useful. It's effectively an effects tool. That's generally what it's there for. It does go through things like Alembic caching. We've made sure of that because it came through an effects pipeline. That's it. Don't forget to check the website out, look at the YouTube videos, follow us on Twitter and all the usual places. And there'll be plenty more coming because we've got an awful lot of tools to go through within a new pack of ProPack that will be coming out very shortly. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye.